welcome again to Mr. Gutchick's What is Supply lecture. I wanted to go backwards before we went forward. Again, I just wanted to review with you how important, vitally important, this slide is. So again, if you have it in your notes, great. Make sure you restart it. If you don't, make sure that you add it and put it in a place that that you won't forget. Now you should be able to finish this part of the slide. It says only one variable changes quantity demanded, and hopefully you know that that one variable is price. Again, don't get sucked into the lazy man's economic vocabulary of saying, well, demand changes, price is going to change, so demand changes. That's just not simply accurate. Remember, price does not change demand. It only simply affects how much of something is being demanded. That would be the quantity demanded. Alright, so to explain demand a little bit further, let's talk about marginal utility. Now, if you remember back from the first section that we studied, marginal means extra. And again, if you didn't come up with that definition when you saw marginal, you need to make sure that you have marginal utility and then write extra next to marginal. That's all we're measuring. If you remember again from our first unit of study, utility is personal satisfaction you gain from doing something. So this is the extra satisfaction you gain from a product. It helps to explain why the demand curve is sloped in the way that it is. So let me give you an example. And it's one of my favorite, probably my favorite breakfast treat aside from cereal. Remember, I could eat cereal 3 times a day for all 3 meals and still love it for the rest of my life. So remind me in class to tell you my favorite type of cereal. It changes really from month to month. So we're going to go ahead and start with donuts, because bowls of cereal, my marginal utility, it doesn't work for this because my marginal utility is quite high with cereal. So we're going to start with donuts. So you got the prototypical donut eater, but that doesn't work. Let's do this. All right, so you got the donut eater right there. Now my first donut that I enjoy, I'm going to really enjoy it. My utility is going to be super high while I eat the donuts. But as I begin to eat the donuts, and let me show you again, it's just a simple graph. Let me show you off here to the side. The graph off here to the side, you can see it on the right-hand side there. My first donut, my utility is going to be high. With the second donut, I may even increase my marginal utility, the extra utility I'm getting from the second donut. So over here would be utility, over here would be donuts. And excuse my poor handwriting. So at the second donut there, my utility is high, but it's going to peak, it's going to be maximized. Then my utility is going to start to drop with the third donut, the fourth donut, the fifth donut, and so on and so on. So much to the part that if I eat that next donut, I may just puke donut, or I may begin sweating lard. And so my utility, my marginal utility, my extra satisfaction from the next donut begins to decrease, or what we like to call diminish. So there's diminishing marginal utility, because with each donut I eat, my marginal utility, my extra satisfaction begins to decrease. So as I eat that whole tray of wedding donut cake there, the first one might be yummy. The second one might be even yummier. I might get even more personal satisfaction. But there comes a point where I'm going to be like, I've gained 70 pounds. I'm now sweating lard and puking donut. So my utility is going to diminish, in that case, rather quickly. So if you see there, never mind the nice graph that I made for you. If you see there, marginal utility starts quite high. As I begin to consume more and more of a good, it begins to diminish. And you can actually go to negative utility. I can actually have negative personal satisfaction as I'm puking donut. All right, and again, I wanted to put this in here to show you. All right, so at a high price, you're going to be willing to pay a high price for maybe that first donut. But as you consume more and more, as the quantity gets more and more, you're going to want, or you're going to be willing and able, but probably willing to pay even less for that good. And so that explains why the demand curve is ever sloping down. It helps to explain the law of demand. Now let's do supply here. Now I don't have a fancy picture that I had in the other one. I didn't have a nice example for this. So instead now I'm going to have you plot the following. So this is going to be much like a demand schedule. This is going to be a supply schedule. Price is always going to be P. Like I said, that's a nice thing about economics. Though we're lazy as economists, our abbreviations all stay the same. So price is going to is constantly shown as P. Quantity supplied, if you remember back to demand, quantity is always expressed as Q. You can probably imagine what supply is going to be expressed as. So it's going to be Q sub S. So I want you to plot these in your notes. So price is 6, and the quantity supplied of 2. Price at 7, quantity supplied is 3. Price at 8, quantity supplied is 5. Price at 9, quantity supplied is 9. Now, one thing I want to make sure that we understand. When we're talking demand, you have your consumer hat on, your consumer pants, so to speak. When we switch over to supply, I want you to put your business hat on, your business suit on, if you will. Because when we talk about supply, you're going to be thinking like a supplier, like a business, like a firm. And you're going to hear me use the term business and firm interchangeably, and that's okay for right now. So you want to think like a business. And so if the price is low, are you going to be more or less likely to supply more of that product? And if you're a wise business person, you should answer, well, I'm going to supply less of it if I know the price is going to increase. If the price increases, I'm going to supply more of it. If you answer the opposite, you may want to stick with something else for your future endeavor. So there's your supply curve. And again, it's just like demand. A curve is a line. So when I said create a supply curve, you should just draw a line that's upward sloping from left to right. And so supply is the entire curve. And guess what a dot or a point on the curve is called? Quantity supplied. It's just a point on the curve. So again, it's just like demand. The only difference is that supply slopes upwards, moving left from right from your y-axis, and demand slopes downward, moving left from right. So a few definitions, so I don't have to cover these in class. The definition for quantity supplied is the amount that will be sold at a specific price. There, that price thing comes in again. So again, you can probably tell what the next slide is going to be. At a specific price. So as the price changes, the quantity supply changes. The supply doesn't change. All right. So again, in a business, think of yourself as a business. If you're able to supply something at a higher price, that's not going to change the entire supply curve. It's just going to change how much supplied is going to be in the market. And so you're going to have movement along that curve. Supply is the schedule of quantity of goods and services that will be sold at various prices at a specific time, all other things held constant. And just like demand, I told you guys, make sure that you pay specific attention to the last two parts of that definition. I think you all know that supply is going to be, again, it's going to be a schedule that shows various prices, things sold at various prices. But make sure that you take note of specific time, all their things held constant. Much like demand, this can be what if. When we get to the determinants of supply, what moves the entire curve, you can what if the question to death if you don't hold all their things constant. And if you hold all their things constant, the only thing you're going to answer is a question in front of you. And again, you're going to get a lot of practice at this. And I guarantee you that people are going to raise their hand and say, well, what if this? Well, what if that? Well, what if this happens? You can't do that. There's no way to make an actual working model of supply or demand for that case if you're constantly changing the variables. So all their things held constant, just answer the question that's in front of you. The last slide you're going to see is the second to last slide, sorry. This is the law of supply. So the law of supply is going to say is price increases, quantity supplied increases as well. So this is going to be a direct relationship. All right, so that's the law of supply, direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. So the second to last slide here, again, you should know that price changes quantity supplied, price does not change supply. If you want to change supply, trust me, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to do that. There are 5 determinants that we're going to talk about a little bit later, but price is not one of them. Price only changes how much is being supplied, the quantity supplied to the marketplace. Price isn't going to change the curve. And again, we're going to explain what that means to change the curve. It's going to be to shift the curve. It's going to be better vocabulary for that. So one last time, only one variable changes quantity supplied, and that is, hopefully you answered, price. All right, that's it. That's it. So if you get asked on a test, what is the one determinant that changes quantity supplied? Your answer better be price. If it's one of the other 5 determinants, you're wrong, because price does not change supply. All right, so I hope that you all enjoyed this. Again, rewind, stop. You guys did a fantastic job in your last quiz. Let's keep it up, and I will see you later in class.